Detroit's median household income is around $35,000. But tucked inside the same city limits are black neighborhoods where the median hits $160,000. Estate homes sell for over $2 million, and doctors, lawyers, and executives have been quietly building generational wealth for decades. These aren't just suburbs, they're Detroit proper. And stick around till the end, because the number one entry on this list is basically a gated enclave disguised as a city neighborhood, where families hold the same properties for 60 years straight. Number 8. Bagley. Bagley is where Detroit's black middle class proves that wealth doesn't always start with six figures. It starts with stability and smart equity plays. Median household income here sits around $65,000 to $90,000, which sounds modest until you realize this neighborhood functions as a wealth-building platform, not a destination. The key characteristic isn't inherited money. It's upward mobility happening in real time. Walk through Bagley, and you'll see brick single-family homes built between the 1930s and 1950s, typically ranging from 1,400 to 2,300 square feet. Market values run between $180,000 and $350,000, and they're rising steadily because residents aren't flipping. They're buying, renovating, and holding long-term. Equity builds slowly over decades, which is exactly how generational wealth actually works for most people. High owner occupancy rates mean turnover is low, and multi-generation households are common, reinforcing neighborhood stability in ways that speculative real estate never could. The resident profile skews heavily towards stable professional careers: teachers, nurses, healthcare administrators, engineers, government employees, and small business owners. Dual-income households dominate, and there's a strong academic culture driving the next generation into healthcare, IT, and business administration. This creates generational class mobility: parents working in education or nursing, kids moving into higher-earning professions, rinse and repeat. Bagley's biggest economic advantage is location. It sits near the Livernois corridor, known as the Avenue of Fashion, which provides black-owned retail density, restaurants, financial services, legal offices, salons, and wellness centers. Many Bagley residents own businesses here, work here, or circulate money within the local economy, creating a community-anchored economic loop that keeps wealth inside the neighborhood instead of bleeding out to suburbs. Proximity to major medical employment centers like Sinai Grace Hospital and easy commutes to Henry Ford Health means healthcare is one of the dominant career sectors among residents. Strong block club culture and family-oriented vibes keep the social fabric tight. This isn't flashy wealth. It's the kind that compounds quietly over 30 years of homeownership, pension contributions, and kids who go to college because it's expected, not exceptional. In short, Bagley builds wealth through stability and smart plays. But what happens when you add historic estates, pension-anchored income, and families who've held the same properties since the 1940s? Number 7. Sherwood Forest. Sherwood Forest sits just below Palmer Woods in raw income power, but remains a highly stable professional enclave where generational ladders do serious work. Median household income runs between $95,000 and $130,000, with a strong pension-anchored wealth base and homeownership tenures that commonly span decades. This neighborhood historically attracted teachers, civil servants, union professionals, healthcare workers, and city administrators, people with stable paychecks and benefits who bought homes and never left. Built largely between the 1920s and 1940s, Sherwood Forest has a dense concentration of historically preserved homes ranging from 2,500 to 4,000 square feet. Think Tudor, colonial, and brick estate homes with large, shaded streets and mature tree canopies that make the whole area feel like a postcard from a wealthier era. Market pricing runs between $350,000 and $700,000 for restored properties, and owner occupancy rates are sky-high with limited speculative turnover. This is a stability-driven housing market, not a rapid flip zone. But here's where it gets interesting. Sherwood Forest has one of the strongest generational education ladders in Northwest Detroit. First generation worked public sector and union careers. Second generation became engineers, lawyers, and physicians. Third generation moved into corporate management, tech, and finance. The result is a slow but steady climb in neighborhood income levels over decades, which is how real wealth mobility actually happens when you're not starting from money. Proximity to Sinai Grace Hospital and easy commuting distance to Henry Ford Health and the Detroit Medical Center means healthcare, education, and government remain major employment anchors. But the lifestyle here emphasizes stability over flash. Block clubs and civic engagement are strong. Crime perception is low compared to broader city averages, and long-term residents dominate, creating a tight-knit professional community culture that values continuity. Wealth accumulation follows conservative patterns: pension income, home equity growth, rental property ownership, and retirement asset stability. Nobody's getting rich quick in Sherwood Forest, but they're building durable, transferable wealth that survives economic downturns and outlasts flashier plays. Okay, so generational ladders and pension wealth are indeed solid foundations. But our next neighborhood took that model and added historic mansions, civil rights leaders, and a preservation culture that turned houses into legacy assets. Number 6. Boston-Edison. Boston-Edison is one of Detroit's most historically significant professional neighborhoods. And it's not just about money, it's about prestige, legacy, and cultural symbolism. Median household income sits around $85,000 to $120,000 in owner-occupied sections, with some high-income pockets tied to executive professionals. This area historically attracted doctors, politicians, business owners, and civil rights leaders, which means the neighborhood carries weight beyond its financial stats. The housing stock is where Boston-Edison flexes. We're talking 3,000 to 5,000 plus square foot homes, brick colonials, Georgian revival estates, large porches, formal dining spaces, libraries. Pricing structure runs between $300,000 and $900,000 depending on restoration level, with significant variance block to block. Property value is heavily tied to restoration investment, so the wealthiest blocks are the ones where owners dumped serious money into bringing these historic homes back to life. Residents show strong academic orientation, with ties to Wayne State University faculty and staff, healthcare professionals, and public administration leadership. College attainment rates trend higher than the Detroit average, and the neighborhood benefits from central positioning near Henry Ford Hospital campus and close to the Midtown Medical Corridor, making it attractive for physicians who want short commutes and historic architecture. Boston-Edison is one of the most culturally symbolic Black professional heritage areas in Detroit. Historic home tours, preservation societies, and neighborhood associations create a community identity built around legacy and continuity. This isn't just a place to live, it's a statement about who you are and where you came from. Residents often build wealth through rental properties, professional services, small business ownership, and equity accumulation via historic homes that appreciate slowly but reliably. The economic behavior here blends prestige with pragmatism. People buy into the neighborhood for the history and status, then leverage that equity into broader wealth-building strategies. Boston-Edison represents a specific type of Black wealth, rooted in professional achievement, anchored in historic preservation, and built on the idea that where you live matters as much as what you earn. So we've covered historic prestige and legacy wealth. But what about neighborhoods where the money's newer, the business spine is vibrant, and entrepreneurship drives the economy more than pensions? Number 5. West Outer Drive/Livernois to McNichols Corridor. This area is more economically mixed than the other entries, but it still contains strong middle-class Black pockets and represents something crucial: emerging wealth zones where entrepreneurship and street-level business ownership create pathways that traditional professional careers don't always provide. Income tiers in stronger blocks run around $70,000 to $100,000 household income, with significant variation street to street. This is an emerging wealth zone, not a historically elite one, but that's exactly what makes it interesting. Housing stock is mid-century suburban style, 1,500 to 2,200 square foot brick single-family residences with attached garages. Market dynamics show gradual value growth and increasing renovation activity as first-time professional buyers move in. This area often serves as an entry point for middle-class homeownership, the first rung on the ladder for people building wealth from scratch. The real economic engine here is the Livernois corridor, one of Detroit's most important black commercial hubs. Restaurants, hair and beauty businesses, legal services, accounting firms, insurance offices, and boutique retail create a strong street-level entrepreneurial ecosystem. This isn't wealth built through corporate jobs or hospital administration. It's wealth built through ownership of salons, law practices, and small retail operations that serve the community directly. The area has a mixed education profile with strong presence of skilled trades, small business owners, and vocational career pathways alongside a moderate college-educated population. This results in income diversity, but it also creates visible business ownership pathways that don't require advanced degrees. You can build wealth here through mastering a trade, opening a shop, and reinvesting profits. Old-school economic mobility that's harder to find in more credential-heavy neighborhoods. Proximity to Sinai Grace Hospital means many residents work in nursing, support healthcare roles, and medical tech positions. But unlike earlier neighborhoods, this area has higher commercial traffic, an active street-level economy, more turnover, and more income diversity. The trade-off is a strong entrepreneurial culture where ownership is visible, accessible, and actively celebrated rather than treated as an abstract concept. Now, entrepreneurial energy is powerful, sure, but what about neighborhoods where education drives everything, where knowledge sector professionals dominate and college-bound rates are sky-high? 4. University District. University District is one of the most education-driven neighborhoods in Detroit, and it shows in the income profile, housing market, and generational outcomes. Median household income sits around $80,000 to $95,000, with high dual-income household rates and a stable middle to upper-middle-class base. This area is heavily populated by knowledge sector professionals, people whose careers depend on degrees, credentials, and institutional affiliations. Housing stock is primarily built from the 1930s to 1950s, with typical homes ranging from 1,800 to 2,800 square feet. Brick homes on tree-lined residential streets dominate, and renovation activity is steadily increasing values. Price range runs between $250,000 and $450,000, with a strong upward trend driven by demand from professionals who want walkable, stable neighborhoods near employment hubs. Resident employment links heavily to Wayne State University, public school leadership, nonprofit administration, and healthcare management. Children here show higher college-bound rates than city averages, and the area has one of Detroit's strongest academic-oriented communities. This is a family-centric professional environment where PTA participation and civic involvement are cultural norms, not exceptions. Strategic positioning near Henry Ford, the Detroit Medical Center, and Sinai Grace means a large share of residents work in healthcare administration rather than just clinical roles. This creates income stability without the grueling hours that frontline medical work demands, which is a smart wealth play, solid pay, better work-life balance, and long-term career growth. Wealth generation is incremental but consistent. Common side income channels include tutoring businesses, consulting, real estate investing, and home-based professional services. This makes University District one of Detroit's most stable professional class neighborhoods, even if it's not as wealthy as Palmer Woods or Indian Village. The economic behavior here is disciplined and forward-thinking. People buy homes, invest in education, build side income streams, and leverage institutional connections into long-term financial security. It's not flashy, but it works. But as powerful as education-driven wealth is, it's fundamentally salary-dependent. Our next neighborhood flips that script entirely, where property values alone put you in seven-figure territory. Number 3. Indian Village. Indian Village is one of Detroit's most expensive historic districts, and the wealth here is property-driven, not primarily salary-driven. Home value bands run between $500,000 and $900,000 commonly, with restored mansions hitting $1 million plus and estate-scale properties going significantly higher depending on renovation depth. This is asset-heavy wealth, where net worth comes from what you own, not what you earn annually. Unlike majority black elite enclaves, Indian Village has a racially mixed population with a smaller but financially significant group of Black homeowners. High net worth households span multiple demographics, but Black residents here tend to fall into higher professional tiers: corporate executives, entrepreneurs, senior healthcare professionals, and legacy property holders. This produces select Black affluence rather than concentrated Black majority wealth, but the financial power is undeniable. The housing stock contains some of the largest historic homes in the entire city, 4,000 to 7,000 plus square feet built between the 1890s and 1920s. English Manor, Georgian Revival, and Victorian estates dominate, with large, deep lots and multi-car carriage houses. Homes are rarely flipped quickly. Owners invest in long-term restoration, and property values tied to historic district protections, architectural significance, and scarcity of estate-scale homes. This creates a slow-moving, high-equity market where wealth compounds through preservation rather than speculation. Indian Village has one of the strongest private school pathways in Detroit. Common schooling routes include Detroit Country Day, University Liggett, Grosse Pointe Academies, and Cranbrook. This produces dense alumni networks, career pipeline advantages, and high intergenerational mobility. Social capital is driven by preservation societies, historic associations, private donor networks, and cultural institutions. Sitting close to Detroit's medical core, 10 to 15 minutes to the Detroit Medical Center, easy access to Henry Ford, means many high-income residents tie to hospital administration, private medical practices, and healthcare research institutions. Lifestyle carries one of the strongest prestige identities in Detroit, with historic home tours, preservation-driven community culture, and long-term property retention where 30-plus years of ownership is common. Wealth is often rooted in diversified capital streams. Business owners, investors, executives, and real estate portfolio holders. This is a net worth-oriented neighborhood rather than salary-dependent, which means financial resilience even during economic downturns. Indian Village wealth is built on property and prestige. But what about neighborhoods where equity comes from decades of ownership, paid-off homes, and intergenerational property transfer rather than million-dollar estates? 2. Rosedale Park. Rosedale Park is one of Detroit's clearest examples of wealth built through long-term homeownership rather than high salaries, and it's a masterclass in how stability compounds into generational equity. Median household income sits around $60,000 to $85,000, with many pension-supported households and a strong presence of retirees with paid-off homes. The wealth here often comes from decades of ownership, low mortgage burdens, and intergenerational property transfer. Parents buying in the 1950s, living there 50 years, then passing homes to kids who inherit equity instead of debt. Housing stock developed heavily after World War II and has a uniform residential feel. Typical homes run 1,300 to 1,900 square feet. Colonials and ranch-style houses on tree-lined streets with deep lots. Market values sit around $150,000 to $275,000 typically, with stable appreciation rather than rapid growth. The stability of the housing stock supports long-term residency, which is the whole point. People buy here and stay here, which creates wealth through equity accumulation over decades. Education is a central value in the community. Strong public school involvement, PTA participation, and multi-generation college attendance patterns are cultural norms. Many families have parents who were educators and children who moved into professional careers, creating that classic upward mobility arc where the first generation works stable jobs and the second generation climbs higher. Rosedale Park has a noticeable concentration of residents working in healthcare, education, and public sector roles. Proximity advantages include access to the Henry Ford system and nearby clinics and local medical centers. This is one of the most family-centric areas in Northwest Detroit, with very low residential turnover, strong neighborhood identity, and long-time resident networks that produce deeply rooted social stability. Wealth accumulation follows conservative patterns: pension income, paid-off homes, small rental properties, and retirement savings. This is not flashy wealth. It's slow, steady, and durable. The kind where someone bought a house in 1965 for $15,000, lived there their entire adult life, and now it's worth $200,000 with zero mortgage. That's $200,000 in pure equity that gets passed to the next generation, who can either live in it, rent it out, or sell it and use the capital to buy something bigger. That's how generational wealth actually works for most people. Rosedale Park proves you don't need six figures to build wealth, just time, stability, and smart home ownership. But our number one neighborhood? It's where Detroit's Black elite actually live, where estates sell for $2 million, and where families have been holding the same properties since before the Depression. Number 1. Palmer Woods. And here we are, Palmer Woods, Detroit's Black elite core and the crown jewel of this entire list. While Detroit's citywide median household income sits around $35,000 to $40,000, Palmer Woods operates in a completely different universe. Median household income here runs between $140,000 and $160,000, with upper quartile households pulling $200,000 to $350,000 plus. Net worth profiles are significantly elevated due to home equity stacked on top of professional earnings, creating one of the few true asset-holding communities inside Detroit city limits. Primary wealth drivers include dual-income executive households, physicians and medical specialists tied to Henry Ford and the Detroit Medical Center, corporate leadership roles in automotive, law, finance, and academia, plus long-term intergenerational homeownership where families hold properties for 30 to 60 years straight. This isn't just high income. It's layered wealth where people hold multiple properties, investment portfolios, and pension-anchored retirement stability. Palmer Woods was designed as a pre-Depression estate subdivision, and the physical environment still reflects that original intent. Home sizes run from 3,000 to 8,000 plus square feet on lots ranging from a quarter acre to half acre. Architecture skews Tudor Revival, Colonial Revival, and English manor estates built between 1915 and 1935. Market values start around $500,000 for unrenovated historic properties, with typical restored homes running $800,000 to $1.5 million and top-tier estates exceeding $2 million with full restoration. Unlike most Detroit neighborhoods, price appreciation is driven by historic preservation status, scarcity of large estate land, and owner-funded renovations rather than speculative flipping. This creates a market where homes appreciate steadily because they're genuinely scarce and highly desirable, not because investors are manipulating prices. The neighborhood's long-term wealth stability ties heavily to education patterns. Heavy private school enrollment rates dominate, with common institutions including Detroit Country Day, Cranbrook Schools, and University Liggett. High concentration of graduate degrees among adults means second-generation residents frequently move into medicine, law, engineering, academia, and corporate management. This creates a self-replenishing professional class ecosystem where wealth perpetuates through education and credentialing. Strategic positioning near Henry Ford Hospital, 10 to 15 minutes, the Detroit Medical Center, 15 to 20 minutes, and Sinai Grace Hospital means a notable share of residents are directly employed in healthcare, not just doctors, but administrators, researchers, and department heads pulling six-figure salaries with benefits and retirement plans. Palmer Woods functions more like a gated suburban enclave inside city limits. Very low turnover rates, strong homeowners association presence, private security patrol culture, and community events centered around preservation and networking create social capital density where residents frequently have overlapping ties in medical boards, legal circles, university faculty networks, and professional associations. This is one of the most concentrated Black professional elite networks in the city. Residents often control small to mid-scale professional enterprises, medical clinics, law practices, consulting firms, real estate investment portfolios, and property management companies. This means income isn't just salary-based. It's diversified across multiple revenue streams that create financial resilience and long-term wealth accumulation. Palmer Woods is where Detroit's Black elite live, build, and pass wealth to the next generation. It's proof that even in a city with a $35,000 median income, concentrated pockets of serious affluence exist, and they've been there for nearly a century. So there you have it. 8 neighborhoods that prove Detroit's Black wealth story is way more complex than headlines suggest. From Bagley's middle-class equity builders to Palmer Woods' estate-holding elite, these communities show that generational wealth comes in multiple forms: homeownership, education pipelines, entrepreneurial ecosystems, and long-term property retention. Some neighborhoods build wealth through stability, others through prestige, and a few through sheer property values that most people can't even fathom. If this changed how you see Detroit, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about wealth, neighborhoods, and the economic realities hiding in plain sight. Drop a comment telling me which neighborhood surprised you most. I'm genuinely curious. And share this with someone who needs to know that Black wealth in Detroit is real, diverse, and built to last. Catch you in the next one.